All right. Welcome, everyone. So welcome to the last day of PAW. I just want to really thank the CAPS organizing committee for PAW, Jennifer Major and Edris Medallion, for really putting in an amazing week of speakers and programs, really diverse topics, and I think I myself have learned so much by just listening to the concerns that the postdocs are bringing up, and also the speakers. Very informative talks. So please check out our YouTube channel, the CAPS YouTube channel, where we have really gathered all the information and you can go back and watch anything that was missed. So today we have three items on the agenda. We have a workshop on equity, diversity, and inclusion. This is pre-recorded, and Dr. Imogen Ko, who is a faculty at the New York University, will be presenting she's really the champion of EDI in Canada, I would say. So we'll be listening to that, and we'll take any questions that you might have for Dr. Ko and make sure that we can address it later. But during this 1 hour, we can just tune into the video and please bring up any topics that you would like discussed in the chat. We'll then move on to the COVID abstracts and awards. This is really exciting. We've received a number of really interesting abstracts from the community, and Dr. Jennifer Major and Edris Medallion will be doing a draw. It's basically going to be a random number generator who will pick the best, because it's really hard to choose the interesting stories that postdocs have shared with us, but we will be sharing those abstracts online. So you can also have a look and chuckle or learn from everyone who's really shared their stories with us. Thank you to all those who have shared their stories. And then we're going to move to Dr. Muni Venkatsarwarlu, and Dr. Kutuba Karvi, who are going to be talking about the CAPS annual general meeting coming up in November. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it on to Dr. Ko, who's really, whose recording you'll be watching. Okay. So I guess like I might need to share my desktop in a different way. So can anyone tell me if they can see the video?
Not yet. We're looking at your, oh, wait, sorry, this is?
Is it coming
this
up?
Is the video, sorry.
Embracing diversity, equity, diversity. Okay, great. Thank you, Jennifer. Okay, Dr. Imogen Ko, take it away.
As Emma mentioned this morning, CAPS is working on EI issues. Just doing so advances CAPS' mandate of improving the lives, training, and work experiences of all postdocs. And over the past year, CAPS has worked on a number of EDI issues. For example, early in 2019, CAPS provided feedback to Tri-Council consultation on a Made in Canada Athena Swan model.
With it is the acronym for Scientific Women's Academic Network. Athena Swan was launched in the UK in 2005, and it's an internationally recognized initiative that celebrates higher education institutions that have implemented practices to advance EDI and help drive deeper cultural change in STEM. Athena Swan models have been adopted outside of the UK, and some versions have increased the scope of underrepresented groups to include persons with disabilities and racialized populations, and focused on all areas of the research ecosystem. Through the creation of a Made in Canada Athena Swan, the government of Canada is aiming to improve EDI in Canadian higher education institutions, and CAPS was a part of this consultation. CAPS has also added new EDI-focused questions to its 2019 survey of Canadian postdocs. So be sure to complete the survey and have your postdoc colleagues complete it so we can develop a fuller picture of specific EDI issues. So now turning to our panelists. So we're very pleased to have one of Canada's strongest advocates for EDI as our speaker in this panel. Dr. Imogen R. Coe is a cell biologist. She was founding dean at the Faculty of Science from 2012 to 2018. Dr. Coe is a professor of chemistry and biology at Ryerson and an affiliate scientist at St. Michael's Hospital in Toronto. Dr. Coe is internationally recognized as a Canadian thought leader in the area of equity, diversity, and inclusion in science, technology, engineering, and math, or STEM. She's advised academia, government, and industry. She's very much in demand as a speaker and panelist and has received numerous awards for her advocacy work. And she's joining us virtually from Toronto with her talk, Embracing Dimensions, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion in Canadian Research Culture.
Research. Okay. And are there other people on the panel?
Yeah. No, you are our keynote.
Oh, I am the panel. Okay.
You are the panel.
Okay, I'm not quite sure why I'm not being able to. I think you're going to get my speaker notes. I'm sorry about that.
That's fine.
I've actually got two screens, and it looks good on the other screen and not on this screen. Ah, there we go. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm really sorry I can't be there with you in Halifax. It's one of my favorite cities, but I'm delighted to be with you virtually on this platform. So I hope there's lots of good networking and information exchange going on. I realized that I did not put in my slides, as I usually do, an acknowledgement of where I do my work. Usually my second slide is the land acknowledgement for Ryerson University, and I think it's really important when you're talking about equity, diversity, and inclusion to acknowledge that the land where we're doing our work has been inhabited by people for many tens of thousands of years, and to acknowledge that. Ryerson is in what's known as the Dish with One Spoon territory, which is a treaty between the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the Mississaugas, and we come into that treaty not always invited. Land has been taken, but we all come here now under this Dish with One Spoon treaty in the spirit of peace, reconciliation, and friendship and respect, mutual respect. So I just want to acknowledge that that's a really important part of the principles that kind of frames the work that we do. So when I was putting this, well, I should also finish by saying the land acknowledgements are calls to action. They are not ceremonial, they are calls to action that drive us to affect change and make change. And so one of my responses to that call of action is to always try and recognize contributions that Indigenous scholars have made in various aspects of many disciplines across all the disciplines of academia, and I try to find opportunities to promote and support and give platforms to Indigenous scholars where possible. Use my privilege to elevate other people, and so that's that's the call to action. And we need to do that because human capital is the most important resource that developed countries has, and this is just a comment from the former president of the World Bank, noting that it is human capital that will account for growth in countries, in developed countries in the future. Now we hear a lot in Canada about oil, about mining, about forestry. We are very much seen as a resource dependent economy in terms of our natural resources. And that is true, but it is human capital, human intellect that's going to be really important for growth in the future. And we are a small population in competing on a global level with very big countries, India, China, the US. And so we have to leverage every ounce of human intellectual capital that we can leverage in order to have the quality of life that we enjoy and the standard of living. And that means embracing equity, diversity, and inclusion. And I think sometimes this is a little bit overlooked when we're talking about values around EDI. There's actually economic value around embracing equity, diversity, and inclusion, and it benefits all of us. It's greater sustainability, there's improved stability, better governance, a whole variety of good things that come out of leveraging human capital. And I think it's really important, and I'm continually reminding the system that postdoctoral researchers represent some of the most highly trained human capital. They are the human intellect that needs to be leveraged. And I give advice to postdocs, and anybody is free to contact me for any advice at any time. I do a lot of mentoring online, and I'm happy to help anybody with job applications, if you're going for an interview in academia, writing your first grant. I am happy to help anybody. But you are very, very highly skilled, and make sure you capture all your skills in things like CVs, applications, and interviews, because sometimes I find postdocs, particularly postdocs from marginalized groups, that could be women in science, that could be people of color, people with disabilities, often undersell themselves and don't always put down all of the skills that they actually have acquired during this extensive period of training. And this will link here for some really good resources, which interestingly, none of these resources are Canadian, because other countries are ahead of us in terms of sort of developing a more diverse workforce and highly qualified trainees. But you are extremely important to drive a lot of the research enterprise. And the postdoctoral research population doesn't really reflect Canada on humanity in general. And obviously my area of skill, my experience, and my acquired expertise is mostly around the STEM disciplines. So these are data from science and engineering, which are gender binary. They don't tell us anything about other human characteristics. We're very data poor in Canada, but they do tell us that the pipeline or the pathway is very unidimensional. It does not reflect what Canada looks like or what humanity looks like in general, at least in the STEM disciplines, and certainly in other disciplines we see an underrepresentation of people of color, Indigenous, members of the LGBTQ community. So we are missing talent all the way along, and that's a problem. We don't want to be missing talent. We want to be accessing all the talent. For those interested in pursuing careers in academia, we also know that the demographics are shifting, and that can add challenges to the availability of academic positions if that's what you want. And I don't think by any stretch of the imagination that is, that is a destination. I have long since banned the term alternate careers from my vocabulary, and I call anybody out who uses it around me. There's no such thing. In fact, an academic career is the outlier. But you can see, if you look at the change in demographics, that 40 years ago, or almost 50 years ago, who had a position as an academic faculty member, and how old those people were has really, really shifted. Again, I think, are we leveraging all the talent available to us in more recently trained HQP? I think these are some uncomfortable questions that the Canadian academic sector needs to be asking itself. And academia is a little bit slow to get with the program, I would say, compared to business and industry, who have long since, including in Canada, recognized that they're going to do better if they leverage their diversity and inclusion opportunities. They're going to make more money. They're going to get better outcomes. They're going to be more competitive. And there's a ton of data now available. There's no doubt that this is a reality. The question is, how do you actually integrate the principles of equity, diversity, and inclusion into your particular workforce or your workplace, how you do that. So that's what sort of industry and business are struggling with, and there are some real leaders out there in terms of actually affecting change, and often they're being led by people that you might not expect. Old straight middle-class white men have become extremely effective leaders in integrating D&I. D&I is how it's referred to in some places. EDI is what we tend to use in academia. So academia traditionally is slow to change. I grew up in Cambridge in the UK, and Cambridge University has been around for almost 1,000 years. Academia is very resistant to change. It's also very resilient. So it's a balance between those two aspects. It's good that academia is resilient. It won't stand up to shifts in political climate, but it's also resistant. And those old-fashioned ways of thinking and toxic cultures, failure to build inclusive environments costs everybody and diminishes research outputs. And these are just some examples from other countries. So in the US, some of you may have seen the report that came out last year in June 2018, that a very extensive report from the national academies, science, engineering, and medicine, that describes a culture of harassment in those disciplines. Harassment, gender-based harassment, second only to the military in terms of comparisons against industry and other sectors. And certainly in the UK, a lot of work by the academic sector and by things like the Royal Society of Chemistry to really address culture and context towards building more inclusive environments. And so we can look to other countries for best practices and really look to other countries for having very deep, very explicit conversations, uncomfortable conversations that I think we are reluctant to do in Canada. And so one of the things I do is go out there and push us to have those uncomfortable conversations. There's a bit of a myth in Canada that we don't have these problems. We certainly do have these problems in Canada, but we are very polite. We don't want to talk about them. And that avoidance of conflict, that avoidance of uncomfortable truths really is costing us, because the truth is it does go on. And I picked on the University of Manitoba here just because the report came out, but there isn't a university or college in this country that doesn't have challenges with bullying, with inequitable work environments, with racism. And I collect stories. Every time I go and give a talk, somebody will come up to me afterwards or send me an email or send me a DM or whatever, and will tell me their story, or tell me what happened to them. And a lot of it is gender-based, but not exclusively. There is racism, there is homophobia, and there are real challenges around toxic cultures. And trainees are among the most vulnerable and the least able to challenge these systems or call them out. So this is why we have to address culture and context much more than trying to, maybe in addition to another mentoring program or another training program. So when the Liberal government came in 2015, it was a mandate, a clear mandate, an expectation of the Minister of Science at that time, Kirsty Duncan, to address this lack of full inclusion, of inclusive design, of intentional work on culture and context. And so part of the mandate then was to really figure out how to create a better, stronger, more inclusive academic sector, and that meant looking to best practices from other countries. And it's an economic driver as well as a good practice. And we can look at ourselves, we can look and study ourselves, and we have scholarship, we have very, very outstanding scholarship in this country that points to where the problems lie, and the reality is we have some data that describes how underrepresented some groups are. And so we can build on the information that we have. We are data poor in this country relative to other countries, but that's not to say that we can't do something about this. I recommend this book, The Equity Myth. Some of you may follow Melinda Smith, she's a brilliant scholar at the University of Alberta. Carl James was at York, I think he's in Ottawa now. Howard Ramus, I think he was in Ottawa, maybe he's in Dalhousie. This is a pan-Canadian piece of work that is a difficult read at times, but will really address and explain, you know, this myth that we have in this country that Canadian PSC is you know, equitable. So building on evidence and data from multiple sources, it's clear that, you know, all the workshops, mentoring programs that we're very good at in Canada, we're very good at mentoring programs to promote, retain underrepresented groups, for instance, women in STEM, will not change participation rates unless the culture of the workplace also changes. And that means those with power and privilege must take responsibility and be held accountable. And so this is really the foundation for programs like Athena Swan. It builds on that boards making actionable changes, measuring those changes, requiring inclusive leadership as a key performance indicator for everybody, whether you're a program director, a chair, a dean, a president. You have to incentivize. Human beings are, you know, they're animals. We can study ourselves. We work on the basis, we're motivated by incentives. There has to be accountability. If you don't do it, something happens and consequences, and we're all complicit. So we're all responsible. So we all are part of this change. It's not on women. It's not on people of color. It's not on people with disabilities to try harder. As I often say, we don't tell people who use mobility devices or wheelchairs to lean in to get up those steps. We take out the steps and we put in a ramp. So we identify the barriers and we remove them. That's on all of us to do that. It's not on the marginalized group to try harder. There's a little video here that I recommend to everybody. It's from a sociology professor, and I think it's University of Denver or University of Colorado. She's a sociologist, and she talks about how do you get humans to do things. We think that people are motivated by doing good things. They want to incorporate EDI because it's the right thing to do, because it's morally just. And actually, people are not. Some people are motivated by those things, but many people aren't. And how do we get people to do things that we need them to do? Engage in healthy behaviors like, you know, use seatbelts, give up smoking. We have to both educate people and raise awareness, but we also have to provide incentives, and sometimes we have to legislate, and that's what we did with seatbelts. We legislated around gay marriage. So sometimes we have to use a systems approach. So it's not just enough to tell people it's a good idea. You also have to incentivize. There are three things that she describes in this, and I should know her name because I should give her credit, but set behavioral expectations. Don't think that you'll change somebody's attitudes and then their behaviors will change afterwards. Set behavioral expectations first. So we're going to have a diverse speakers list. I don't care whether you believe in EDI or not, but that's the behavioral expectation. We will have a diverse speakers list. There will be a diverse conference organizing committee. There will be a diverse, you know, selection process, whatever it is. So set the behavioral expectations. Human beings are very heavily motivated by loss. What might you lose out on if you don't do this? And this has been quite effective in Canada in terms of the Canada Research Chairs, Canada Excellence Research Chairs, funding. There's nothing that motivates universities and faculty members like money. So if you don't do what we need you to do, you might not get what you want. And then shifting social norms. If you think about how social norms have shifted significantly around, for example, gay marriage, what becomes normalized behavior in a department or a program then becomes it becomes harder for people to behave against that. So shifting social norms. So having an organization like CAPS fully engaged in EDI as a normal kind of part of just the culture of the organization then becomes social norm, and then people become familiar with the social norm. People want to be part of the social norm. So these are these are ways to actually shift behaviors towards what we want to achieve. And they can be done at a whole bunch of different sort of systems levels, on the individual basis or on an institutional basis. So the Athena Swan type of approach is really looking at evidence-based policy changes that can address systemic barriers, organizational, structural, across the whole organization. It's very data dependent, quantitative data and qualitative data being really important, which is why having social scientists involved is critically important. We look at how these kinds of programs are run in other countries, and then there are characteristics that really are required, particularly courage and leadership. this little awareness to education to actions to outcomes is a really good kind of mantra to follow in all of these kinds of initiatives. We're kind of good about the awareness, but we often jump straight to actions without really learning about what works or not, which is why we continually hear about, well, we need to get more girls interested in STEM. Yes, we know there's a problem, and then we jump straight to an action for which there's really very little evidence to support effective change in the absence of a systems approach. There's nothing wrong with getting girls into STEM, but in the absence of looking at culture and context, it won't make a difference. And we've seen that from the data over the last 20 or 30 years. So awareness to education, what works, what actually has an impact, and then turn that into an actionable program and then measure it to see what the outcomes are. And so this has been a way to sort of start to drive the universities towards actually shifting, or at least taking account of their culture. By the end of 2018, all the universities was required to have an equity plan as part of the CRC cert nomination process. Whatever university you're at, find that equity plan, print it out, and keep a copy of it, because you may be in a situation where you want to refer to that if you're trying to achieve a particular initiative, get a little conference going, or maybe you're not being treated fairly. Take a look at what your university has committed to. They put it down in writing, so keep them accountable to it. Organizational cultural change requires accountability, and keeping the universities accountable because they put it in writing, a huge step forward. You can hold them accountable, and I've seen a couple of places where they've been quite helpful when a university has said, no, we're not going to run a grant workshop just for women because that would be discriminatory. You can point to a particular section in their equity plan where it says, we will run workshops for underrepresented groups. So you said you'd do it in the plan. Now you're telling me you won't. I'm going to hold you accountable against your plan. The organizational cultural change then is the Dimensions program, which is a sort of an overarching approach to having a look at the culture in your particular institution. And it builds on programs that have been running around the world now for a number of years. So the advanced program in the US was perhaps one of the first to really try to look at how to shift organizational culture. It was a funding program funded by the NSF. It was individualized. Universities would apply to get money to do research, and then try to implement the findings of that research. So it was patchy. Often the research was done, and then nothing happened to the research after that. Athena Swan is an accreditation program. There's no money associated with it, but it's a prestige kind of issue. It's like LEED certification for buildings. So everybody starts off at a lower level. As you acquire more stature and more skills and more proven record in the field, you can move up the accreditation towards a gold Athena Swan Award. It's sector-wide, it's institutionally competitive, there's a shared responsibility, but the first iterations were overly bureaucratic. It was unidimensional, it was gender binary, it was limited to science. It's now extended across all disciplines and across all intersectionalities. However, it's still quite bureaucratic. And I've sat on one of the peer review processes in the UK to see how the process actually works. And it's very interesting. It's very interesting to have universities take a long, hard look at themselves and see where they can make improvements in terms of EDI. Australia adopted the Athena Swan model. It's called SAGE. It was run as a pilot. They're just coming through the pilot now, SAGE pilot. Again, accreditation. Every institution in Australia immediately signed on to the charter. Everybody wanted to be part of the process. Everybody wanted to get with the program because it made them look good. And that was a bit of a problem because it had to ramp up so quickly. It was difficult to have the sufficient capacity for the peer review for all of the organizations, institutions that wanted to participate. It was also gender binary. They had an Indigenous component, and how are we going to integrate Aboriginal scholars? How are we going to improve the culture for Aboriginal scholars? And that was done as a bit of an afterthought, and it was poorly managed in terms of how they structured the actual actual application process. So there's a real lesson learned there that we can also look to in Canada and say, we're going to do it that way, we're going to do it our way. The US has adopted the Athena Swan model. They call it C-Change. It's administered out of the American Association for the Advancement of Science. It's also an accreditation. It's about adopting best practices. They've gone across all disciplines, across all kinds of human characteristics. So they've gone across all genders, all backgrounds. Are you a first generation university attendee? Across all parts of the university community. They have socioeconomic barriers, all of these kinds of things. The US has massive amounts of data on their university communities. They have so much data, it's really hard to know where to focus. And I'm on the International Advisory Board for that particular C-Change program. So it's very interesting to see how that one's rolling out. They've given out their first awards, and so there's some lessons learned there. So in Canada, taking together all of that information about how other people are doing it, we have what I think could be, depending on how it rolls out, could be a best in world program. And it's called Dimensions, and it will go across disciplines. And as it says at the bottom here, addresses obstacles faced by, but not limited to, the 4 designated groups under labor law at the federal level. So the 4 underrepresented designated groups, that being women, Indigenous peoples, persons with disabilities, and members of visible minority racialized groups, plus members of the LGBTQ2+, 2S+ communities. So it's going across disciplines, across human characteristics, and is building on the data that we have. And it is still an accreditation model. So this, I think, has the potential to be best in world, but we will see how it rolls out and how it's managed. The process is one where the institutions who are seeking to be accredited undergo what's really a self-reflection. They have to do a full self-reflection of the state of the institution. There is the self-assessment team that is formed. It collects data, an environmental scan, climate survey, actual numbers of who's doing what and where. That self-assessment team collects those data, analyzes the data, identifies gaps, issues, does a strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats analysis, and out of that develops an action plan. Now, nobody can fix anything in 2 or 3 years, but there may be areas where an institution could say, wow, we really have not seen a change in our recruiting to computer science for women and underrepresented groups. We're going to have a targeted, specific hiring plan that's going to address that particular issue. Or it could be our senior executive team has been all white men for the last 30 years. We're going to really address and look at how we are recruiting people and what we're going to do about it. They then have to implement the action plan. It could be looking at policies and processes. It could be updating parental leave. It could be, for instance, looking at postdoctoral support systems, often a place where there are gaps and weaknesses. And it needs to, an institution will put those into place and then measure progress towards those goals. That process is then submitted for peer review. It'll be going through NSERC. And then will be evaluated and will be either awarded or not awarded a bronze award as the first level. And then the process is to reflect and repeat. So universities are not competing against each other, which is really, really important. Universities were terrified that they were going to be competing against each other. Universities and colleges are going to be competing against themselves. Am I better than I was 5 years ago? How much better can I be 5 years from now? So that's a really important thing to notice. If you take a look at the leaders, for instance, in the UK, and there are 2 here that are just outstanding: Imperial College London and University of York in the UK, both of whom are among the few Athena Swan Gold Medal Award winners. And interestingly, both of these institutions had very engaged white male leaders, both of the male leaders for for EDI integration were leaders academically, they were leaders in the institution, they were leaders in the disciplinary sense, both chemists, and very effective in getting progress made on these initiatives. This is Tom Welton, who's now the president of the Royal Society of Chemistry in the UK, proudly gay as well. So a real understanding of what it means to be a member of a group that is discriminated against, but real leaders in terms of affecting change. And if you look at their websites, it always makes me cry a little bit when I look at the websites of these places. I mean, you look at them and you think, why, who wouldn't want to work in these places? Because they just create such a sense of welcoming and humanity and recognition for the whole person. So this is what we're trying to get towards. This is stage pilot in the US. They also have other organizations that have been pushing. Canada could do something along the lines of Male Champions of Change, which is where the leaders with power and privilege step up and actually commit to, in this case, gender equity. And if Australia could do this, honestly, I don't know why Canada can't do this. And then in the US, it's sea change, and it's more so focused on STEM, but again, looking for institutional transformation. What's a postdoc to do? So that was information about some of the Athena Swan-like stuff that's going on in Canada, but what's a postdoc to do? And I really want to highlight a couple of things that I think are really important for postdocs. And that is that these issues are becoming core elements of skill sets that employers are looking for. So for instance, we just posted at Ryerson this tenure track position it's in chemistry, and this is part of the job ad. So if you are seeking a job in academia, particularly from, let's say, most of the universities outside of the U15, but including some of the U15 universities, Waterloo is quite progressive around EDI. You need to know what EDI means, and you need to know how it relates to, for instance, service teaching and scholarly research. How will you create an inclusive classroom? How will you develop a research program that truly recruits from all parts of humanity? So it becomes a skill set that you need to learn. If your program or your institution is not providing you with training in that skill set, go and get it, because I can tell you, as a hiring dean and now sitting on search committees, there are lots of people out there who are really very, very thoughtful and knowledgeable in these areas. It's a core competency, so it's a skill set. Competency is some people using the word core fluency, because core competency suggests that if you're incompetent, are you fluent in these skills, the effective application integration into the workplace? And in addition to that, do you know about sex and gender-based analysis? So if you are particularly in the life sciences, or you're in the qualitative research like psychology or other aspects, other kinds of research, do you know how sex and gender-based analysis impacts or is important in experimental design? And this is not just academia. As I said, industry and business are kind of a little bit ahead of academia, so these are also skill sets you can take into other sectors. Gender-based analysis as a policy issue is really important in governance. And so these are skills that really everybody's looking for. Academia, if you're looking for a grant, and remember I said humans are motivated by what they might not get. So universities, if you don't have sex and gender-based analysis incorporated into your research at CIHR and so forth, you might not get the money. It's mandatory. And EDI integration for high quality personnel in NSERC grants is mandatory. And that's 30% of your assessment. CIHR has very good resources. They've done a good job of explaining sex and gender-based analysis. I recommend looking at their resources. They're very good. They've got very good modules, and you can just go read them. They're very well done. I encourage everybody. It doesn't matter who you are, male, female, whatever gender you are, whatever your discipline. They're good resources to be familiar with. And I show this to researchers because this is what an NSERC review sheet looks like if you are reviewing grants. So I sit on NSERC, I'm a co-chair of an evaluation group. Have you considered sex, gender, and diversity in research design? That's now mandatory. If you haven't done that, you're going to score lower. And in your section on HQP, have you talked about how you build an inclusive research environment? Have you talked about respecting all of the characteristics that all of the people can bring? Are you just looking at very narrow sets of metrics about how you recruit or how you support people? That's mandatory, and if you don't have that, then you may score lower. And this is from CIHR. I also sit on the CIHR panel. Are you able to explain gender as a socio-cultural factor, and have you taken it into account in your research? And if you're not getting training in these things, then I encourage you to seek those out. If you are getting training, good, because it's just something that you should get. I can't tell you how many grants I've read where somebody will say, we're doing cell culture, so we don't have to worry about sex and gender-based analysis. And it's really quite worrying, because cell culture, your cells have sex. They have a sex, and you should know what it is. They probably also have HeLa cells are a woman of color, so there's a characteristic to those cells. It's experimental design. It's about good science. It's about good experimental design. I would also say for postdocs, because I've seen and heard too many really difficult situations, I would say you must know your rights. Know your rights under labor law, know your institutional policy, and postdoctoral rights vary enormously across the country and by institution. So our postdocs at my institution are considered employees. They are eligible for all the employee benefits. They are an employee category. Regardless of where the funding comes from, they're employees. They're much more secure than they are at other places. And so know your institutional rights, know what's available to you under federal policy, tri-council policies. Tri-councils are doing a better job in some ways than some of the institutions are doing. And know your disciplinary society's policies and procedures. Other things that you can do are to learn more about the vocabulary of EDI, understand intersectionalities, understand white privilege. If you're a white woman, stand up against racism and anti-Semitism. It's not just about gender. And learn how to call it out, bystander training, allyships. If they're not happening, ask for them. Demand better, ask for accountability. What are the institutional policies? Codes of conduct are really easy. Everybody should have a code of conduct for their conference. There are enough uncomfortable incidents and sometimes bordering on criminal incidents that happen at conferences, including in Canada, to suggest that if you don't have a code of conduct, you could be liable, a society could be liable, that kind of thing. And celebrate all of the aspects of humanity that come to the research culture. And I've just given some examples here. Soapbox Science is a program I brought to Canada, where women can speak to their science in the public, not doing the outreach, but actually talking about their science, being seen as scientists. This is Ada Lovelace Day, International Women in Engineering Day, LGBT STEM Day. And there was University of Windsor, to its credit, just had the first in Canada LGBTQ in STEM conference that just happened. And this is an email I received from a colleague at the University of Toronto who I recommended to go speak on a panel, who is a young man who lived much of his life, he's in his 20s, in the closet, and it took an enormous toll on his life, obviously, and his ability to contribute in his research setting. Eventually came out to his research colleagues, and huge support. I was on a panel with him at another conference. I suggested that he go speak at this conference, and he came back and he sent me this email. I've never felt more at home in a room full of strangers, to be honest, because everybody at that conference could relate. He was amongst people who had very familiar experiences. And I don't want to be getting those emails in the future. I want every environment for every young person, every trainee, every postdoc to be a place where they feel at home, because they are at home, they can bring their full selves to work. They can bring their full selves to their research institution and be themselves without having to worry what other people think. Community, copycats, champions, all of these things are important, and all of these things are something that everybody can do. If you have privilege, step up and speak up, particularly men, white women. There are lots of resources. This is from Catalyst. you don't know what to say, here are some things, here's some ideas, what you can say in response to what people say. You know, if somebody says, suck it up and be a man, what to do instead, show empathy. Lots of resources available. And just finally, EDI work is hard work. When you're accustomed to privilege, equity or equality feels like oppression. So there are lots of people who will push back, organizations and institutions will push back against change. This is to be expected. Don't think that everybody is going to get on board with this because people feel threatened. So you have to be strategic about what you can do and how you can be involved if you want to affect change. But everybody can contribute to cultural, contextual change. The other thing is that this work is uncomfortable. Talking about differences, challenging people, calling people out on sexist jokes, calling people out on racist language is uncomfortable. And we have to deal with discomfort. We're not very good in Canada at dealing with discomfort. We don't like to make people feel uncomfortable. We're very polite, but that's kind of almost passive aggressive as well. So we have to embrace discomfort. And Sarah Kaplan, Institute for Gender and the Economy, has done some great work around why discomfort is actually a good driving force. It leads to more innovation. If you have, and people may have experienced this, if you've got people who come from a whole bunch of different countries and they speak different languages, when they have to present ideas, you have to work harder, you have to clarify concepts more thoroughly. So you actually get better outputs, you get better results, but it takes practice, and it is hard and it takes practice, but it is worth it. So don't expect everybody to be all you know, rainbows and dolphins and unicorns. This is hard work and there will be pushback, which is why doing what you can do in the way that you can do it for your environment is really important. And people like me who have privilege, tons and tons of privilege and tons of security because I have tenure, I have much more of a burden of responsibility to be doing more of it and getting out there and saying things that maybe make people feel uncomfortable. So finally, more resources here if you're looking for stuff, or I have a consulting company also, which has probably more up-to-date resources now. And finally, be brave, not perfect. And together we will create a stronger sort of science culture, a stronger academic culture in Canada. Thank you. Okay, so.
Thank you very much for a very provoking presentation. We have a few minutes to take questions from the floor. Yes. So I know when we were reviewing the Smart Charter earlier this year, there was a very nice charter that sort of laid out but you know, we definitely skills how that specifics get implemented. And it's also, as we mentioned earlier, so one of our concerns was, you know, how effective is you know, and is there a danger of PI washing? And is there any oversight? Were you able to hear that, or do you want me to repeat the question?
So I think I got most of it. So the charter outlines the principles. And so, as you said, the devil's in the details, and will it be D&I washing? Is that what you said?
Yeah, EDI washing.
EDI washing. Yeah, I think that's a real concern, a very valid concern, a concern that a lot of people have raised, because we're very good at talking about what we want to do and not very good at actually implementing change. I think it will depend on how the program is managed. I have concerns about that, but I can tell you from my involvement in the process in the UK and in Australia and the US, that as long as the peer review is rigorous, there will be no capacity for EDI washing, because it will be peer reviewed by experts who will take a look and say, this is, you know, this is insufficient. So I think the peer review, we consider peer review to be the kind of gold standard, right, that keeps the quality of whatever exercise that we're involved in. It keeps quality up there. If an institution comes in and says we have very little of concern, but we're going to address this one thing over here, and then 3 years later, yes, we've seen an increase of 10%, and they've sort of fudged the numbers to make it look like it's proportional. And there's lots of different ways you can play with data. As long as the peer review panel is knowledgeable and rigorous, they will not get away with that. So that's the key. I tell you also that there is pushback from Universities Canada, and there's pushback from U15 and other institutions because they don't want to be held accountable, and because this will cost resources. And so it's going to be a continual effort to maintain accountability, to ensure that the process and the way the applications come in is rigorous. The applications have to be fulsome, they have to have solid data, and they have to have action plans that show evidence of change. And then the review it's not a rubber stamp. There are institutions that are not awarded. I saw that in London. There are also institutions that are awarded and then come back three years later, as you must, who then lose their accreditation. So I think the key is to keep that piece really, really strong and rigorous. And that's the same for the whole peer review culture that we have. So we'll see how it goes. But if we have good peer reviewers, we can be hopeful.
And I know that you said that the universities don't want to compete against each other, but I was just wondering if they're in any way obliged to share their data or their outcomes.
So that's a very good question. The pilot institutions were announced in August. There are 17 pilot institutions. There were some institutions that weren't included in the pilot who were very upset about that. And that will motivate them to make some changes, I think. So the institutions that have been selected to be the pilot are beginning to talk to each other and have been encouraged by the tri-councils to share their letters of intent, to share their process. There is a reluctance amongst the universities to do that. So we will see if that culture will begin to change, and if universities will start to become more engaged in sharing best practices and learning from one another. So I think we'll see there's certainly some universities that are very, very resistant to sharing any information. But I think as accreditation starts to happen, other universities will be motivated to want to get that kind of gold star. And we'll start to see perhaps more collaboration going on. So it's very interesting, and this has been documented in the UK. It's very interesting to see how the culture of inter-university sort of collaboration and inter-university competition began to shift once the accreditation started to go out, because other universities that had been assuming their superiority were not getting the accreditation, and then they were seeking out, perhaps in a slightly more egalitarian way, a way to work with sort of so-called lesser universities that were getting the accreditation, and started to see some real shifts in culture there. So we'll see what happens in Canada. There's a resistance, but if the system is held to account and kept rigorous, we might see collaboration going on more effectively.
All right. Sorry, 1 second. I'm just gonna stop the video. So, okay, everyone. Hi. Yes. So we have this recording on our website, but just because of time, I'm gonna stop it. There's about 5 minutes remaining. This was my second time listening to the interview and also the talk by Dr. Imogen Ko, and I think she's really a champion. There's so many really great tidbits, and she really goes full circle, identifying the problems and creating or suggesting solutions that we can adopt in Canada. And learn from those who are ahead of us in the US, UK, and Australia. So I really encourage you to listen to it. If you listen to the rest of it, it's going to be on our website, and we're going to advertise that more widely on our Twitter. So look out for that. But I'm going to pass it out to Dr. Jennifer Major and Edwis Madadian, who are going to take over for the abstract and awards.
Hi, Nushin. Thank
Hi,
you.
great.
So I'm actually going to maybe give us just a few minutes break. Because in the schedule we had said we would start at 2:10 Eastern Standard Time, and just in case any of our people who submitted are going to log in, so perhaps we'll just take a few minute break and then I'll be right back.
I'm sorry about that. Maybe we could actually keep watching it. I can start it if anyone wants to take a bio break, please do. It's going to be available on the website, but I'm going to just maybe keep it going for another 5 minutes. Yeah. Okay.
So on one hand is world class, and on the other hand is physical. And you know, is that an example of something that's successful, or is that an example of fail? And how would you advise institutions to sort of I don't know, is that something that's encouraged or discouraged? You know, because on one hand it's great, on the other hand it's not. So it's sort of I guess it's one of these challenges when you're embarking on an EDI adventure, I guess. But do you have any reaction to that?
Yeah, so I would say that if you have, if you have what you describe as a world-class plan for gender diversity, it doesn't include racialized minorities. It's not a world-class plan. It's a completely inadequate plan, because a woman of color experiences bias and prejudice on the basis of her color before her gender. And so you cannot differentiate those aspects, and that's, a world-class plan on EDI acknowledges the diversity of humanity. And that will be by gender, by ethnicity, by sexual orientation, by socioeconomic class, all of those kinds of things. So that is an overarching principle. It may be that there is a particular action that you want to pursue that relates to, gender, generally gender in general, but it has to be framed within an acknowledgement that gender is only one of many aspects of humanity. So this is why any plan must be really reflective of the division, the program, the institution, the research group, to address what is it that is actionable for that particular division or that particular group. And it, maybe ethnicity, maybe you do have, really strong ethnicity, but you don't have great gender diversity. But every action comes under an overarching principle that a world-class plan will address all of those issues. But an actionable program or set of actions may focus more specifically on one particular aspect. I think that the problem is, and I don't know what your discipline is, but my problem is in sciences, there's been a huge emphasis on women in science. And really what that has meant is white women in science, white girls in science, white women in science, without understanding that if you don't tackle racism, you can't deal with sexism. So these things are all connected. And you have to have an EDI lens that sees how all of these things are connected when you go into developing your action plan.
Other questions from the floor?
Okay. So we'll hopefully be continuing this conversation with you and with institutions on bringing EDI into our practice as postdocs. So thank you very, very much. My pleasure. Thank you for having me, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Yeah, I'm really wondering how people here found this presentation. It's really like you feel free to unmute yourself and let us know your thoughts. Yeah, I definitely learn every time I listen to this. There's so many great points that she brings up, and I think it's really on all of us to start implementing that in our practices, regardless of where we are. Yeah. Okay. So with that, I think, yeah, we had really exciting abstract submissions. Thank you all who have submitted. I'm going to pass it to Jennifer to see what she has in store for us.
All right, thanks again, Nishan. So I'd like to start off by saying we wanted to have this COVID-19 abstract submission where we were focused on positive things. And that's not to diminish any of the negative impacts that have happened during COVID-19. Of course, we want to acknowledge that many people have lost their lives, many people have lost their jobs, some people are having problems with immigration. There are so many different challenges that we're all facing. And as postdocs, I would say that we face some unique challenges already. So being a postdoc is hard enough, and being a postdoc during the pandemic is even harder. And we wanted to just share some positive stories, maybe see a little bit of the silver lining that this situation has produced, so that we can know, we're all in this together, and there are some good things that we can make out of this, and maybe try to build each other up during this week where we appreciate one another. So with that said, we did receive quite a few really wonderful submissions. There are some people out there that have actually been able to be even more productive and get a lot of data analysis done, defend their theses and start their postdocs, and a lot of actually great professional things that are happening still, even with these trying times. And a few other more on the personal side of things, because we asked kind of for personal or professional or both, and people are having great things happening in their personal lives as well. I know I would have to say that with many of the submissions, many of us are spending a lot more time with family and reconnecting with friends that we haven't in a long time. We're all now using Zoom to connect with people and to go to even webinars and meetings and meet people that we never would have met. This kind of was available before, but now it's more of a norm, and we've been kind of forced to reach out more than we would have normally. So many people talked about that. A lot of people talked about different hobbies and stuff that they picked up as well. A lot of people are exercising more and learning painting. Sourdough is a thing. So a lot of people are baking and trying to be healthier. And
are they sharing the recipes? Probably not. Reach out to them.
Unfortunately, no one put in a recipe, but maybe we can get that going. So there's so many wonderful stories out there, which is great. I do want to share one picture here. Let's see if I can share screen. Oh, would you be able to allow me to share screen? I didn't sign in as a host nation. It's okay if it takes a second. I also want to note that we decided that since, we didn't really have any strict guidelines at all, we kind of just asked us, story/abstract, less than 300 words, and we really have all kinds of different responses. So we decided that it wouldn't be fair if we just looked at these and picked our favorites. It wouldn't be this is kind of subjective. So we decided to take everyone that did it, and we made a list, and basically we're going to use a random number generator to pick these. And then in the next few days, we will be able to publish them online. So I encourage everyone to go online and read some of the stories. I know they made me feel good, and they made me realize some of the things that maybe I hadn't noticed that are positive aspects of this situation as well. So I just want to share this one picture that I thought was really special. Oops, sorry. Can you see my screen here?
Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
wow.
We had one postdoc who actually got married on Zoom. So they were only able to have a few people attend their wedding, but they were able to share it with so many people. And she just submitted this beautiful picture, and I wanted to share that because that's just so nice. Oh, actually, I think she's on here.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Hi, Lisa. Congratulations. And hope you don't mind that I shared the picture. I just thought it was so lovely.
That's awesome. Thank you for making our days. That's cool.
Thank you.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm not better at Zoom here yet, but I want to unshare this. And she doesn't want us to have her picture up forever here. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to use my random number generator to pick our first winner, which was actually our second submission. And okay, that's really weird because it's actually Annalisa.
Wow, cool.
Here, maybe I should.
Yeah.
So congratulations to you, and thank you for sharing that. Here, I'm gonna show you guys. See, I'm using a random number generator. So, but that is really funny that I was sharing your picture, and you are a winner. Congratulations, and we're so happy for you.
Yay.
Thank you so much. This really makes my day. I mean, it made my day when you just shared the picture even before. But thank you all. I feel very supported by the Postdoc Association. And
So
I'm
where are
looking
you
forward
connecting
to,
from?
I'm from Toronto right now.
Cool.
Mhm.
That's great. Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to reading everyone else's stories as well.
Yeah, me too, for sure. Yeah. Look out for that on our website.
Okay, so random generation number 2 is our abstract number 6. And so this is Dr. Priya Ramazi, if I'm saying that right. I'm not sure, because I can only kind of see a few people. I'm not sure if he is on right now, but we will send him an email letting him know that he is one of our winners as well.
I don't see your name here. That's great to know, though.
This one is number 7, and that is Dr. Hannah Harrison. Is she on here? No?
Oh, yeah, I see her.
Hello.
Thank
you.
Hi.
I think here I can share, I remember you shared a picture as well, I think, of the seminars that you have been holding about fishing industry, I believe.
Yeah, we started a podcast because of COVID as a way to deal with all of the changes that we were hearing about in our respective research networks. And that has been super rewarding. Also gives me a very nice microphone, which is useful for all of these endless Zoom meetings.
Oh, yeah, really professional. That's really cool.
Yeah,
Can you tell us more about the podcast and how to get to it?
Sure, yeah. So I'll put the link in the chat. It's called Social Fishtancing because puns. And it's all about small-scale fisheries around, at this point, North, Central, and South America, or the Latin Americas, and how small-scale fisheries are dealing with COVID-19. And it's a storytelling podcast, so we feature, there's 3 of us who do it, myself, my boss, and one of our students, and we to do interviews over Zoom, and then we put them all together into kind of with music and with narration, and try and create stories that talk about how people are coping and being resilient to change. And some of them are really tough, but many of them are really awesome. And we've actually seen that people who direct market sell their fish have seen tremendous success and growth during COVID. So that's been a really wonderful kind of silver lining to doing that work, and has been a fun paper to recently prepare for submission. So yeah, anyway, I'll put the...
Wow, that's wonderful.
Yeah,
Well deserved.
the other picture was a quilt. Not related to research, just related to having too many hours to myself.
Oh, wow. It's really cool. It's very mathematical. You see like pluses and minuses.
Yes, it was the
really
easiest pattern I could find that was all straight lines. So.
Oh, that's true. That's cool.
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks very much. Yeah, it was really awesome to have this contest because it was fun to sit down and think about good things that have happened in the last 6 months. And I really, like the others have said, look forward to reading all of everybody else's.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks to Jennifer and Edris who came up with that idea of the contest. We usually don't have the PAW usually just happens in the specific, postdoctoral association chapters, and at CAPS we thought we can take the responsibility this year and really share that with the wider community. So it's really great to use some of our money from the Tri-Council. Thanks to, we should definitely thank the Tri-Council who's been really supporting us through all of our activities, from outreach to meetings to many. I'm new to the team, but Emma has really done a great job of bringing every support that they've done to us so far, and also actually compensating us for the survey, the national survey, which is a great endeavor. So yeah, okay, congratulations to our winners. That's awesome. Thank you, Jennifer. And I guess I don't know how they're gonna be I guess, do you want to tell us more about how the award works?
How the awards will be awarded, you mean?
Yeah, I guess. So you'll be contacting them.
Yes, of course. We will be contacting. I mean, two of you know already, and we will let Priya know as well. But we will be contacting them and figuring out how to get the money to them right away. And as I mentioned before, we will be sharing all these great stories for everyone to be reading in the next couple days. We just want to make sure that everyone is all right with their abstract being put online before we put them all up. So it should be on Monday, and that should be around the same time that we start putting out any extra links or slides from Postdoc Appreciation Week as well. So we will keep everyone in the loop and make sure to share everything for people that weren't able to join. I know it's hard, we're all in different time zones and we're all working very strange schedules right now. So we'll be sure to share all this information as soon as possible.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is Dr. Kutuba and Muni, who are going to explain the AGM, but I don't see them on the list, actually. Is anyone? Oh, I think he's just joining now. Okay, Kutuba, are you joining right now? I just saw a CAPS representative. Oh, we see, sorry, 1 second. CAPS operations. Yeah, so we are holding an AGM in November, the annual general meeting, and so there's more information that's going to be coming to you by our CAPS representative. Let me just ask him if he needs to be a host.
We're just a little bit ahead of schedule, so perhaps if they're running a tiny bit behind schedule, then we might be on here very soon. Do you have the slide with the information? I'm sorry, I joined a few minutes late. I'm not sure if you shared the picture contest for the annual general meeting.
Oh yeah, so maybe I can put that up.
Since we've been talking about abstracts and sharing the wealth.
Yeah, so we have another competition coming up. I don't think if there is any a limitation as to who can or cannot be part of it. So please feel free to join again. Oops, sorry.
I want to provide a little bit of background.
Having technical difficulties. Photo competition. Sorry, everyone. Just give me 1 second. I'm going to dig through some files, or unless you have it ready to share, Jennifer. Oh, I see Mooney also joining us. That's great. Okay, I'm just sharing my desktop basically, which is very busy, but can you see? I found our banners for the image competition. So you can find it on our website or on the Twitter channel. So all postdocs are invited to our image competition. So you can submit an image or a portrait that you think best represents the challenges that postdocs have been tackling during the pandemic. Or I guess it could be also not related to pandemic, but I guess those would be the juicier stories, like the marriage photo. So this can work from home, what you've been facing working from home, life work balance, uncertainties about next steps. These are just some suggestions. So the competition closes on today. So today is the last day. Is that right? Yes.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Muni. We were expecting
we'll be
you.
extending the deadline for another 20 days because we just want to make sure large participation in this. But I'm sure everyone will have their own story during this pandemic. So we want as many image competition, like the participants possible, so that we'll have a larger group to participate in the image competition. And this way we can we invite fellow postdocs to share their views and ideas with the CAPS. And as we mentioned in the website, we also invite the winners and runners to share their views about the pandemic during the AGM. And also at the same time, we award these prizes to the winners. So we have one winner and 3 runner-ups. So the winner will get $200 Canadian dollars prize money, and the runners, each 3 runner-ups will get $100 each. So I'll be repeating this information again when I'm going through my slides. But yeah, thanks Anoshin for mentioning this.
That's awesome. Thank you. Can you also remind us how to submit the photos? Like where maybe the email is very small, but yeah.
Yeah, I have a slide dedicated.
Oh, awesome. Cool.
to it.
Okay. So I'll stop sharing and make you the host, Nuni. 1 second. Wait, looks like no, you're not the host. All right. Yeah,
Okay.
you're good to
So
go.
actually we planned 2:30 EST, right? Yeah, we are a little ahead of our schedule.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll give a couple of minutes, but yeah. In the meantime, I can also give a brief idea about what the image may look like and all. Yeah, so you need not to have, like, you can club as many photos as possible which captures your uh, struggle or your problems that you face during the pandemic. As a postdoc, how you get along and get through these problems, and how do you involve yourself uh, in, to come out of this mm, pandemic. And for example, maybe you can say due to your family, you may have to go out and do your work, like sitting in a park, or you have to sit in a playroom along with your kid, and you have to work, and at the same time you have to take care of your kid. Or you sit in your car and work for some time, or you attend a meeting from somewhere uh, that it is not even possible to attend a meeting. You can club all kinds of these photos, and you can write up your story, how you have come across all this, and what you have learned, or what you are still facing, and etc. So this is basically your story that you want to publish it to the world, that okay, this is what I have been facing, or I have faced, and how I have overcome this. So this is basically the theme of the image competition. So if you have any questions, maybe let me share my desktop. Yeah, I don't know what's happening. Yeah.
Okay, I think I made you the host. Can you see that option?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
No, I think it's with my system actually. I think now I'm good.
Okay, cool. Yeah, thank you for that explanations. I had a colleague who also teaches, and she mentioned she had 2 kids in the elevator, and she was teaching on Zoom on a cell phone. So that I cannot imagine how that looks like, but it's definitely a really great photogenic thing. So I'm encouraging her to send a picture if she can.
Yeah, and we also want to encourage collaborations here. It is not one applicant, like you can form a group, and you can form a team, and then all together can create an image. It need not to be taken like it need not to be a digital image. It can be a portrait or hand driven, something like that. Someone is joining. Where do I see this? 1 second. So now you still
yeah, we actually saw your screen for a little bit. You were sharing it, okay?
yeah. Okay. Can you see?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I'll go ahead because I think we are on time now.
Sounds good.
Or do you guys want to give another couple of minutes?
Yeah, we lost some participants right after the draw, but I guess you can go ahead. We're recording this, so we'll definitely be sharing this for anyone who may be interested. Yeah.
Sure, sounds good. Okay, let me start. Hello everyone, myself Munivenkateshwarlu Kumaramangalam. I was a postdoctoral fellow with University of Calgary, and I'm a VC operations CAPS in CAPS, where I'm responsible for smooth functioning of the monthly meetings that happens between the executive members. So let's start. I hope you all have enjoyed this wonderful 1 week for appreciating the postdoc community, and I especially take this opportunity to thank Idris and Jennifer for putting it all together and making this event a big success. Thank you, Idris and Jennifer. And similarly, like CAW, we have another event which is annual general meeting, which is going to happen on November 5th, 2020. This time due to COVID, yes, we are going virtual. So you can join us from anywhere in the world. But you may have to register for this event so that you get the link and other updates from CAPS. So well, you may ask, what is the main aim of this annual general meeting? So this is one of the key events that CAPS hold every year. The main aim is to gather around all the executive members from across Canada, and also we take this opportunity to meet with other postdoc associations from different universities. What we do, we basically discuss what is happening for postdocs within Canada or Canadian postdocs abroad. And we also discuss what are the challenges or problems that really affecting the postdoc community within Canada, or similarly the Canadian postdocs abroad. And we discuss the possible actions to overcome these problems. And we discuss what we should do in the upcoming year so that we can increase the quality of postdocs. And more importantly, we discuss the collaborations with different universities across Canada so that we reach out every single soul, the postdoc soul in Canada. And we also present and discuss what we have done to improve the quality of a postdoc in Canada during this current year. So this is the main agenda of this AGM, basically. And some of the highlights of this particular AGM is, as I mentioned, it is one of the key events, just like our PAW. And this is our 10th AGM. So we have been successfully conducting these AGMs for a decade now. And as I mentioned already, due to the pandemic, we are going virtual this time. So you can participate from your home or office or from wherever you want, and you can listen to what we share, what we plan to improve the postdoc life. So for this, as I mentioned, you may have to register for the event. In order to register the event, we highly encourage you to register with the CAPS as a member. And being a CAPS member, you avail other facilities that have been highlighted during the entire week, this current week, like insurance, auto insurance, mobile insurance, medical insurance, etc. And you also get updates from CAPS, like what are the latest latest details related to postdocs. And also you can encourage your fellow postdocs to participate in this event. And for that, as I mentioned, like you have to register as a member, which is free, and for the AGM also it is free of cost, so you don't have to pay a single penny. But what is the eligibility to become a member? Like you need to be a postdoc, especially either in Canada or Canadian postdocs outside, or you can be a stakeholder, like who is like a professor or adjacent member with the universities or graduate students, or you are a PDA member, etc. So we really don't have a limit on who should be a member, who should not, but you need to be a part of the educational system in Canada. So once again, let me highlight that this event is free of charge. So I highly encourage you to attend this event and make this event a big success. And in this event, we are going to discuss several cool things. Maybe you might have received several emails from CAPS during past 4 or 5 months. One is a national survey, one is about COVID survey, one is going back to work survey. All these surveys that CAPS has handled. So these surveys results are going to be discussed or presented during this AGM. So which is cool stuff that I think you should not miss. That you will learn what other postdocs in Canada are thinking, or what problems that they have faced, or what they think, how to come across this problem, or what is the challenges that they are facing during this pandemic. And this is this review will be done by our executive members. So as I mentioned, there are cool survey results that we are going to discuss in this AGM. And also another important stuff here is photo competition, as I discussed already. So this photo competition, main aim of this photo competition is to capture what is the life of, what has been the life of a postdoc during this pandemic. So you can take a picture, or you can capture other postdoc pictures with their consent, of course, and you can merge your experience during this postdoc during this pandemic and put it into a image, and you can write 100 words, a short essay about what you are trying to explain using your photo, and you send it to us before the date, the actual date, the deadline was to submit the image is today, but because we want to invite or extend open this for encouraging several other postdocs to share their stories, we are extending this deadline till October 15th. So you still have another 20 days. So please highly take this opportunity to share your story. Let us know your story so that we can share your story with the rest of the world. So what is the main what are the rules? Like the image should be 36 inches by 24 inches size, and it should be at least 300 dpi quality, because the resolution should be 300 dpi because we want to pose the finalized images on our CAPS website so that we get the feedback from postdoc community again. So another rule is like we encourage one application from one group or one applicant. So, but we highly encourage group participation because we especially allot 10 points additional. It is a bonus points if you are a group of postdocs. This is highly to encourage the group participation. And as I mentioned already, you can combine more than one image. And it can be either a digital photo, or it can be a handwritten diagram or figure or portrait, whatever. You can use any software that you like, and you can develop this image and send it to us. And yeah, as I mentioned, yeah, this is open since July 1st, but this time it is going to be hard deadline, which is October 15th. Is the hard deadline to submit your images with CAPS. And winners, one winner will get a cash prize of 200 Canadian dollars, and 3 runner-ups each will get 100 Canadian dollars. And as I mentioned, we are highly excited to share your story with the rest of the world by publishing your image on the CAPS website, and it's going to stay there for 3 weeks. And if you need more information, you can reach out either Kutuba or myself, Muni, on these emails. And you can also find our profiles or emails on our CAPS website, which is www.caps-acsp.ca. And for image computation, if you want more information on image computation, you can go to this website, www.caps-acsp.ca/en/caps-image-competition. And once again, let me remind you guys that the AGM is going to happen on November 5th from 1 o'clock till 5:30 Eastern Standard Time. And one another cool thing that you should not miss is the tri-council response. So we every year, at least from past couple of years, we understand what is happening for the postdocs in Canada, and we come up with 5 major things that the Tri-Council, I hope you all know YENSER, CHR, and
Shirk.
Shirk,
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, these 3 things they are the Tri-Council who can help us realizing this 5 tasks that for the 5 tasks, big asks from the Tri-Council. So the Tri-Council will help us realizing these 5 tasks, negotiating with respect to bodies. So we have a representative, Catherine from ENSA, who is going to give their responses for our top 5 asks for this year. If you have missed what are those top 5 asks, maybe you might have to go back to the first day of PAW, and you can see the recordings that our colleague Emma has mentioned these 5 asks to Tri-Council. So these, I believe the cool stuff here, the year-end review, photo competition, Tri-Council response to top 5 asks, and finally, what we plan for the next year is going to be discussed as a strategic planning advocacy as the next bullet in this agenda. So, and we finally wrap up. So this time as we go online, so we wanted to be short and sweet. So that's why we wrapped everything within 1 o'clock till 5:30 Eastern Standard Time, so that from East Coast to West Coast can attend this event. So I think with that, I thank you for your participation, and I look forward to meeting you all during this year's AGM that is on November 5th, 2020. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Muni, for the great presentation on AGM. So does anyone have any questions for Muni while he's here? Please feel free to either unmute yourself or write your questions in the chat. But thank you for that. I think, yeah, CAPS is really an advocacy group, and we want as many voices of postdocs as possible. So if you're a current postdoc and you like to join CAPS, you can consider. I think that's also going to be something that will be discussed probably in the AGM. So I definitely, this is my last year of being a postdoc, so I probably can't qualify anymore, but if anyone is interested, please join. It's a great group. I've learned so much by being here, and it feels good to be able to give back to the community that you're part of. Oh, we have one person joining. It's a little bit late. So if any questions, feel free to ask now. Other than that, happy PAW, everyone. I saw a cartoon somewhere that we have a week of being appreciated and then we can go back to being unappreciated. So it's over, guys. Yeah, I think we had really great events planned. Thank you, Edris and Jennifer, again, so much for putting such amazing talks and really in an organized fashion. Everything's going to be available online too, so if you have missed it, please look at our YouTube channel and connect with us, engage, and advocate for postdocs. With that, I'm just gonna, there's no more questions. I'm gonna just say goodbye.
Yeah, I take again, once again, I take this opportunity to congratulate all my fellow executive members who have put in a lot of effort during this week to make this a great, huge success.
Yes. How do you do that hand thing? I can't figure it out.
And also I should thank all the participants who have really take their time to attend the workshops that PA has organized during this 1 week of.
It's a discussion.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you all, and hope to see you in person. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Let's stop the recording.